Hey, everybody. I am in my own music room for this conversation. And you can see by this beautiful person with me and the background that we may be talking to an artist of a sort. So, welcome, Maren. I'm going to do a formal introduction because, people, we have a very special guest today. So, Maren is, besides being a very dear friend, almost to the point, not even almost, to the point of family with us, with Deb, myself, and Lindsay. She is also an opera singer, business coach, writer. Her voice is on 3 Grammy Award-winning albums of late. The big thing with Maren, and the main reason I want to capture her here on our Facebook Live is, as we know, live performances just vanished from the scene, like on one day in March of 2020. And she didn't just lie down and cry. She turned her focus to the online world, started writing, producing, and premiering a one-woman show called, and I love this title, The Bodice Ripper Project. It's an interactive digital performance that she performed at the Philadelphia Fringe Festival. And that, along with the podcast that went along with it, both explore sexuality, feminism, and the journey to self-empowerment through the lens of romance novels. So integrating a lot of things that normally people don't think to pull together and integrate. As far as credentials go, it's off the charts. She's a graduate of Tufts University, the New England Conservatory of Music. She sung at Carnegie Hall in New York City, Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, multiple theaters in Europe, and my favorite, even performed on stage with the Rolling Stones here in Philadelphia. You will learn in talking with her today, she's passionate about uplifting and amplifying new and diverse voices in classical music, and that's fueled her work as a business coach for musicians. So right off the bat, welcome. But one thing I want to clarify, you are a coach not just for classical musicians, but any musician, right? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Even though I have a classical background, which is one of the reasons why I tend to attract more classical musicians. But yes, the people that I work with, a lot of the stuff that I do has to do with taking the old paradigm, throwing it out the window, and bringing in this new paradigm, which means taking control of your career. So there's like so many musicians out there who are like, God, if only I could get that big gig. I just need to, work really hard to get this one person to notice me so that I can, get the gig. And, that's going to be the thing that catapults me, catapults my career. And in reality, what we actually need to do is just find our own voice and let that out, and then people will come to us. And when it comes to this new paradigm, that's what the internet is for.
I love it. It's what I'm hearing, tell me if I'm getting this right, is you're shifting the mindset of the artist from someone who needs a patron to someone who is a professional and controls their own destiny.
Correct.
And invites people just by virtue of who they are, not by virtue of asking for help or to do their art. Am I getting that right?
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
My focus tends to be with classical music, but it happens all over the place. There are gatekeepers, and the gatekeepers, like with the Met or, with a symphony or, something like that. It's sort of like, well, you have to be, have this much training and, be able to perform these 16 measures perfectly. Otherwise, you're not worthy. And that's ridiculous.
It's not, and it is really what you're doing is flipping the paradigm, which I just love about this. So the cool thing about Maren is you had this background in administration before COVID hit, but also your career is a performing career. So like when COVID hit and first of all, did that performing career grind to a halt? And outside of the project that you were doing for yourself or that you created yourself and produced yourself, and how did that administrative background help you and how's it kind of helping your clients?
Yeah. Great question. So yes, it did everything completely ground to a screeching halt. I think I might have laid on my floor and cried maybe one day.
You weren't alone.
It's,
It's always
it
good to
may,
have the cry.
yeah, it may or may not have happened, but yeah, I had already had this thought of doing a project in the works in my head.
Oh,
So at the time, I was thinking, oh, this is just going to be like a fun cabaret show that I'll do. And then it was like, well, clearly I can't have any live performance. So what do I do now? And having an administrative background has really helped because I was able to sit down, look at my budget, figure out how much money I had and how much money I'd been like saving to spend on this. And to be honest with you, it was cheaper to do a digital version. It really was.
huh.
I didn't have to worry about finding space and rental and insurance. I spent my money on hiring a really excellent tech guy
Perfect.
who ran the whole show from his room, like from his home,
Oh, really?
remotely. Yeah. So I was in my room. I was in this room right here. I bought like a green screen background and everything like that. We set everything up and lighting, and he had remote access to my computer, and then he
Wow.
ran all of the cues from his house. Yeah. So I
Wow.
spent that money and again, I saved money doing that by hiring him to do this. But then I also was able to, focus on spending money on costumes and, other things that like I was going to kind of like maybe not spend as much money on.
Got it.
So having an administrative background was like great because I knew how to organize the budget. I knew how to organize my time,
Yo,
and
that's a big one.
yeah, exactly.
Well, and
Um,
also, was it streamed live or was
it
it just
was.
so? But you could probably have a recording out of it as
I,
well then.
I
And
do.
now you've got something that you might maybe not have had otherwise.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh.
I was really lucky, because I was doing this as a part of the Philadelphia Fringe Festival, and because this was such a strange time. The Fringe Festival, they're amazing people. I just wanted like huge shout out to them.
Cool.
They offered their space, their performance space for any kind of filming that any of the artists in the festival wanted to do. So
Wow.
I had their space for one day, and I had 2 camera operators and 2 different cameras and a sound guy. All of this was free.
Wow.
All of it was free. And then I spent that day recording myself singing a whole bunch of music. And then we used those videos, professional grade videos.
Wow.
And integrated them into the live performance. So I now have those professional videos that I can use as well,
Even as bits of marketing or for whatever it
exactly.
might be. So it ended up being certainly not as much fun as a live performance, I'm sure, but you got a higher quality product for
Yes,
repeat use than you would have if you'd done it live.
absolutely,
That's
exactly.
awesome. Yeah, and
Yeah.
big shout out to the Fringe Festival for making that so easy for people. That's amazing that they had that foresight because this was back a while ago, right?
It was, yeah. So it was like April, it went back and forth. In April, they were like, well, we're not sure we're even going to have a festival. And then by May, they were like, okay, we're going to have a festival, but it's going to be digital. And
Okay.
you need to tell us by June if you're on board or not. And so I was like, well, let me take the lead.
There's always one of those in entrepreneurship, isn't there?
Exactly.
Well, jump and see what happens here. I love it. And it ended up great for you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I had expected if it was going to be like a cabaret, say, and I ended up having 3 live stream performances,
Wow.
and that was essentially the same number of performances I was planning on having if it was going to be live.
Okay.
and I thought to myself, well, if I get a small like black box, whatever, I can maybe fill it like, I think I could probably sell maybe 150 tickets. That was sort of my thought there.
Okay.
It's not going to be like large, but it's okay. I think I ended up selling 200 tickets. And not only that, but I ended up getting like more. There were 50 people who ended up like asking for a replay. So yeah, so
Wow.
really like 250. And this was
At the
all
Fringe
over the
Festival,
world.
that's a good draw.
Exactly. This is like all over the world too. So I
That's
was
the other
able
thing.
to like,
Bingo. I'm thinking
exactly.
now there's no geography issue.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know that I was able to piggyback off of some of the marketing that the Fringe Festival had. That was one of the big benefits.
Yeah.
But I really had to do a lot of hustling myself.
Yeah.
And that was a big, there was a learning curve there. I think that if I was going to do it again, which I might,
I hope so.
yeah, I think what I would do is make it a much more specific and targeted ramp up for at least a month before
Got
the
it.
actual thing.
Got
Yeah.
it. But still, 250 is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I mean, by definition, you'd be invited back for sure. And I think that the Fringe Festival is not just a Philly thing. There are festivals in every city and town and all sorts of things. And what I'm hearing from you is, as daunting as it might seem, because if you don't have the administrative background, with a tip or two that, and I think you guys just got those from Maren really here, you can do this yourself. There's nothing separating you from Maren having done this. And the thing that I want to add here, that's not just for performers. So a lot of us got pulled off the stages or couldn't do things the way we used to do them. And it becomes now, oh, we have to produce this differently. That's all that really changed. And another person, a really good friend of ours, and I'm curious about your input on this, John Gresha,
Yes.
is a very good friend of ours and just a brilliant musician on the keyboards. I think he sings I know he sings as well. And I know him best for his work with The Crossing and for his Billy Joel work, because I'm a Billy Joel fanatic. But he started like maybe 2 weeks into the pandemic with it was not a fancy production. The sound was okay. The lights were okay. The distance from the camera was okay. And he started doing every Wednesday night from, I forget what time, like 8 to whenever. He just played and sang at his piano. And he had a virtual tip jar in Venmo. And, the first couple weeks, 2 or 3 people would come on, 10 people would come on, 20 people came on, people started sharing it. It was so successful. Number one, he did it through the entire pandemic. Yeah, John is somebody who actually played a gig in Westchester, PA, every Wednesday night before that at a place called Pietro's, another shout out to a Philly area spot. But he went back to Pietro's, and now he's still live streaming. So in addition to the geographically constrained visibility, and not to mention tip jar,
Yeah.
at Pietro's, I tune in every Wednesday night just to put in a couple requests and listen. And he's now getting anywhere between 100 and 300 people online.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what's your take on that? I mean, is there anything about any performer that would constrain them from being able to do that?
The only thing that would constrain them is lack of tech, right? So if
Yeah, okay.
if you don't have a computer and you don't have like a camera and a microphone, then
That
but
would be it.
really, honestly, the barrier to entry is very low. So you don't have to have a great camera, you don't have to have a great microphone. You can have a decent, like all of these things, on like pretty low budget to start.
Yeah.
And
Like, I don't
then
know that John wasn't on an iPhone with a
exactly.
Yeti mic.
Totally. Yeah. And, to be honest with you, I've been all about, I'm using a Blue Yeti right now.
Yeah,
and,
they're good mics.
exactly. They're great mics. That was what I was using for my show. Literally a month and a half ago, I was introduced to a different kind of microphone, a different like setup that is slightly more advanced. And now I'm just like, my mind is blown because the sound is so much better. So,
Wow.
but so I'm taking the next step up. Like I'm now like, I'm turning my closet into a recording booth, and there's more
Neat.
there. Yeah.
Going into your closet.
Exactly. Only to make good music.
Exactly. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
I love that, because that's exactly right. I mean, in all of our businesses, we're going to start. I mean, I go back and look at some of my earlier videos, and I'm like, 3 years from now, I'm going to look at these videos and go, Pam, what were you thinking? Right. But that's part of the neat thing about this, is you can continue to grow in the stuff you're interested in growing in.
Totally. And, so that's really it. Like, start with what you have.
Love that. Great tip right there.
Yeah. And then and the other thing is, it doesn't have to be perfect. None of this has to be perfect. And I think that's what stops a lot of people from, doing what they really want to do, because they're waiting to, get really good at something or whatever. And
okay, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Because you are a performing perfectionist. I mean,
yes.
You perform, I've heard you perform. I know the work that goes into it. Yeah. How did you decide, I'm going to do this differently than the way I deal with my performances? Because that is great advice. Perfection is the enemy of productivity in some areas. But I know you. How did you do that? Because I know a lot of people are stuck on that.
It was such a good, thank you for asking. The pandemic did help, actually, because it gave me a kick in the pants. It was sort of an if not now, when kind of a thing. And it gave me a little bit of freedom, because it was sort of like, well, nobody's doing something like this. So if I'm not 100% perfect at it, then there's not going to be a whole lot of judgment, because, what's the other person doing,
I love it.
But even if it was something that, there was
other people did. Yeah.
There's always going to be somebody better at whatever it is that you're doing. Always. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter, though. Like, that person doesn't matter. They're on their own journey. You get to be on your journey. And one of the as I was writing my script, I got stuck a lot with the perfectionism. That was really where I got stuck, was when I was writing the script. And the best advice that I got was, well, why don't you just try to do a B+ job, see what happens. And a B+, like, it's funny, because a B+ job to me ends up being an A to most people, because I then, but it gives me enough like room for, like, it's okay that not everything is perfect. It's fine, and I really wanted, part of the show itself was interactive. So I knew that there was going to be an element of, like, who knows what other people are going to say, it's okay. Awesome. So I was able to, like, let myself off the hook.
That's fantastic. And see, that to me is what brings to you the coaching talent, is that you know both sides of that coin intimately. And for performers in particular, I mean, a lot of us have perfectionist tendencies, but for performers in particular, like, I don't know, I get the sense that after a performance, they're always looking and going, oh, I could have done that better. I did have, this wasn't good. That wasn't good. Like, very rarely do I hear a performer come out and go, I knocked that out of the park. Certainly an individual performer. Sometimes, choirs will, but we're so critical of ourselves that I think having somebody in the performing world to coach you on getting over perfection, I think just adds such a special sauce to that. That I really am grateful you're on this show with me today, because I want all of my performer friends out there to hear this. And from somebody, it's not from some accountant saying, don't get trapped in perfection. This is a Grammy Award-winning professional artist telling you that that's not always the right answer.
Yeah, the things that I've noticed with my clients have been, like, the general issues that pop up are perfectionism and imposter syndrome.
Oh,
Everybody,
Yep.
honestly, like even the most
Everybody
high performing people.
have it.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And me included. Like I still struggle with it from time to time, but um, I think actually being able to own my own voice and just be like give myself permission to do that and to make my own art and to say what I need to say has actually helped with the imposter syndrome. So,
I
you
love
know,
it.
I that's why I think it's really important again to like, shift the paradigm, do your own thing, make a show of your own, that's going to attract the right people to you. They're gonna bring like all of the excitement, and they're gonna be your fans. And when you talk about like leveling up your career, that's going to do it, but it's also going to give you more self-confidence.
That's you just sound like, oh my God, I'm connecting the dots here on this paradigm shift. This is so much more than an economic paradigm shift. This
Yeah.
is becomes because performers are always judged by somebody deciding if they're good enough for some particular thing. This is you saying, no, now I'm my own judge, and I'll attract the people who find this to be what they want. And that just crosses right over into any business, because
Exactly.
we all get sort of cowered by the next person up the ladder, or two rungs up the ladder, or four rungs up the ladder, and go, oh my God, I'll never be that. Number one, you very well could be, but the only way you ever will be is if you stop trying to be
Yep.
and you be you. And then you're going to attract the people that are going to validate that you. It's like there are how many billion people in this world? You don't need all however many billion it is. I always get in trouble from Lindsay because I don't actually know that number.
I don't either.
But you don't need billions. You
Yeah.
need some, and you need the ones that are what you speak to. That I love this concept. I hope people are picking up on that subtlety of owning your own voice. It's got so much meaning here. You ought to use that somehow in your marketing,
Yeah.
because that's what we're talking about. And one of the things I could go on with this conversation forever. Oh my God, I could drag you on for hours in this conversation. But when you get a client who comes to you and says, hey, I'm this artist, I can't get anything done, I can't perform anymore, is there a lot of work to get them into a major mind shift before you can actually start the technical work with them?
I think that a lot of it happens sort of simultaneously.
Okay.
So, if I start working on, say, fundraising with somebody, they say they want to do like a crowdfunding project, right?
Yep.
Then I start off with the things that like the logistical stuff. What's your goal? How many people do you know? Like how big is your network? What are we
Gotcha.
working with, right? So these are like very specific things, specific and measurable things.
Mm-hmm.
But when I ask those questions, very often we get into their posture shifts, or you realize there's something underlying, and so that's part of what I do too is mindset work, because it if you're not comfortable asking these people for money, they're going to sense it.
Yep.
And then they're not going to want to give you money.
Yep. Again, it comes back to that confidence thing again.
Yeah, exactly. But if you work on the actual mindset, like, why are you having a hard time with this? Like, what is it about asking these people for money
Mm-hmm.
that's triggering something in you? And let's work on that,
I love that.
And if we can reframe it so that it's not bothering you anymore, then it's off to the races. You can just
And
go
the
ahead.
cool thing is, and have studied and are aware of body posture, voice inflections, all of those things that are subtleties that a lot of coaches can't pick up. You're going to pick those up in a conversation, be it over Zoom or the phone, which I just love.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
It's definitely like being a performer has helped with that, because you do recognize these sort of subtle shifts and even tone, vocal tone and everything like that. But I am actually right now finishing up NLP training, so I'm learning the actual stuff around what like all the neurological stuff.
Oh, cool.
Too. So yeah,
that fascinates me. Absolutely fascinates me. So you're adding that to the toolkit as well. So performing is going to come back here sometime. I know I've had my second vaccine and I seem to be at the back end of the wave of people. Are you going to continue to kind of do both? Do you think both manage and own your own thing and still do performances for some of the institutions?
Yes. Yeah, that is the idea. I think that it's possible. I think that, it's just very important for me to, before pre-pandemic, I was always on. I think I've even said that somewhere in one of your Facebook posts.
Campfires.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've been stuck in the on position a lot, and having to slow down during the pandemic has really helped me realize that it is important to turn off sometimes and recharge. And as we move forward, I want to be able to have that in there as well. So for me, that means picking and choosing the clients that I work with and making sure that those are the people that like really like inspire me, because I love to work with people that inspire me.
Yep.
And it also means picking and choosing the singing work that I do as well. And I'm very grateful to be in a good position for that to happen. And it's not easy. Like there is work, that's involved. But the work that I'm doing is all around like how can I uplift and amplify new and diverse voices in classical music? Like, is that happening here? Yes, great, let's do it.
That's awesome, because it means my daughter is tangentially in classical music, studying for her conducting masters right now for the same reason, because you and the Crossing practically raised her, which is awesome. But the thing that I really like about this is you're coming out of this experience owning yourself. And it's interesting. I mean, we've known each other for 11 years now, maybe more.
Yeah.
And I've felt like a real shift in you, and actually felt even more connected to you in these last year than I did before. Not that I didn't before. I loved you dearly, always have. But I think you're right. It's like the on switch isn't always on. So we're seeing you, and you is like, wow, that's even better than on. not on, because you're
right, but like on, stuck in the on position. That's the Maren that's not,
it's not hamster wheel. It doesn't. It feels just so much more set. See, even the dogs agree. Set and in yourself. It just feels really, really cool. So that's just something, I kind of wanted to add. And I honestly cannot recommend to any artist out there, just reaching out to Maren. And one of the things you've actually said, I believe, is that you are willing to do a free 60-minute strategy session with anybody listening to this. You can reach Maren on this website here, www.askmaren.com. You can DM her. You can DM me, and I'll connect you. You can put a message or a question. Anybody has questions, whether you're watching this live or on replay, drop questions down into the comments. I'll tag Maren wherever it is. This is going to a few different feeds. Maren, if you want to share this as well, pull it off of the my personal feed, because there's no restrictions on that. It'll just go wherever you want to send it. But folks, this is gold right here. 60 minutes with somebody who's got 20 plus years in administration and performance, and has a great story that's very practical about surviving times like the pandemic, but truly making a paradigm shift about performers regardless of whether there's a pandemic or not. So seriously, this is gold. We're going to index this one and refer back to a million times in the group, I know. Any last kind of words of wisdom for people, Maren, as we jump off the air here?
Let's see. With the strategy session, like I'm here to talk about your career. You know, like whatever you want to do. Like if you want to sing at the Met, we can talk about that. If you want to, make your own album, we can talk about that. And we'll get into logistical stuff, but we'll also get into some mindset stuff, which is
Love it.
fun stuff.
Love it. Wow. Thank you so much for offering that here. That is amazing. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing from some people. And that you gave us this time today is awesome, folks. There is a ton of gold in this. I can't wait to see your comments on it below. And I will see a few people on Campfire in a couple of hours. Remember, Campfires are every Tuesday and Thursday for anybody in the group to up and join us. There's links all over the group to schedule for it. So I hope to see you there. Maren, I've seen you on a couple before. I know I'll see you again. And everybody have a fantastic Tuesday and rest of the week.
Thank you.
Take care. You bet.
Bye.